This story took place in 2011 in the Canadian city of Armstrong. On October 31, 18-year-old Taylor Van Dyst left her house to celebrate Halloween with friends. Together with a group of childhood friends, they decided to repeat the tradition one last time. Taylor Van Dyst was born on September 12, 1993 in a small picturesque town where literally everyone knows each other by sight. The girl lived with her mother Marie and twin sister Kirsty. They graduated from high school together in 2011. Like most young people, Taylor spent a lot of time surrounded by friends, traveling and exploring new places in her native Canada. Since childhood, Taylor has loved Halloween. That day, popular horror films that she adored were shown on TV, and in the evening, together with her friends, she went out into the street, where they collected sweets, walked around the area, and scared passers-by with their costumes. At 5:50 p.m., Taylor went out to meet her friends. This was the first year that her sister decided to stay home because she felt too old. The path to friends lay through a deserted path along the railroad tracks. But despite this, Taylor felt completely safe in her town. Before leaving the house, she wrote a message to her friends, warning her that she was heading in their direction. When an hour passed, Zoya's friend began to worry. Taylor's boyfriend, who stayed at home that evening, received a message in which the girl wrote that someone was stalking her. Panicked, the young people began searching the area and informed her family of their worries. At 7:03 p.m., Kirsty's sister received a call from Taylor on her mobile phone. It was not her sister on the other end of the line, but two teenagers who had found a cell phone near the railroad tracks. At approximately 8:45 p.m., a search party that included Taylor's mother, her boyfriend and friends found the girl a few meters from the railway with a broken head. She was alive, but in critical condition. At first, everyone thought she had been hit by a train. Taylor was immediately taken to a nearby hospital in critical condition. The girl received numerous traumatic brain injuries. 2 fingers were broken, and there were signs of strangulation on the neck. The train version was excluded. At that same moment, it became clear that someone had attacked her and severely beat her. Already on November 1, early in the morning, Taylor died without regaining consciousness. An autopsy revealed that the skull injury was very serious and non-life-threatening. Armstrong police called an emergency press conference. While still in the hospital, biomaterial that did not belong to the victim was extracted from under Taylor's nails. After running him through a DNA database, police found no match, but he was a match for another unsolved sex crime. On April 12, 2005, in a town called Kelowna, an hour's drive from Armstrong, a woman was attacked and assaulted by an assailant with a knife. Then law enforcement agencies failed to find the criminal. At the end of November 2011, city authorities convened another press conference, to which all major Canadian media were invited. After an identikit of the suspect was shown on all television channels in the country, the police began receiving many calls from the village of Cherryville, which is an hour's drive from Armstrong. About 30 calls were received from local residents. Everyone unanimously claimed that the identikit was Matthew Forster. He matched the description very closely, had a distinctive beard, and was 25 years old. When the police arrived to detain Matthew, they found that his rented apartment, where he was registered, was empty. Investigators questioned Matthew's father, Stephen Forster, who insisted that he had not communicated with his son for a long time, and only suggested that Matthew might have gone to work. By checking Matthew Forster's phone number, it was determined that he was last connected to the mobile network through a radio tower located in the city of Armstrong on October 31, 2011 at 11 o'clock. He called his father Stephen several times that evening and was never seen online again. By taking a DNA sample from a toothbrush that Forster had left behind in his rented apartment, detectives obtained a complete match. All that remained was to find Matthew himself. Investigators were sure that Stephen was covering up for his son. The authorities decided to begin surveillance of the father and listen to his mobile phone. and it yielded results. Stephen regularly communicated with his son by phone, but detectives were unable to locate the criminal. On April 2012, Canadian police finally found and arrested Matthew Forster in Ontario, where he was living under his new name and working in a factory. At the same time, Stephen Forster was arrested at his home on charges of aiding and abetting and obstructing justice. During interrogation, Matthew initially denied all charges, but the detectives had ironclad evidence in their hands, and he confessed to everything. On October 31, 2011, Matthew Forster was driving through the city of Armstrong in search of a woman with the goal of having an intimate relationship with her. While driving along one of the streets, he noticed a girl walking towards the path. It was Taylor. He got out of the car and began to follow her. And when the girl noticed him, she asked him not to follow her. Without responding to the request, Matthew Forster knocked Taylor down and threw him to the ground. The girl resisted with all her might. She screamed and inflicted several wounds on her attacker. But despite the resistance provided, the forces were unequal. He hit her on the head several times with a heavy metal flashlight and choked her until he was sure that the young girl was dead. Then he got into his car and drove away, along the way throwing the flashlight he used to hit him in a city trash can. The trial of Matthew Forster began in April 2014. Throughout the proceedings, he showed no emotion or felt any remorse. Matthew Forster was found guilty on all charges and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But his defense appealed, and in 2017 a new hearing began, at which Matthew pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder, arguing that he did not want to take Taylor's life. According to him, he planned only violent acts of a sexual nature, and it all ended in death due to the fact that the victim desperately resisted. Much to the shock of the Taylor family and the entire community, a new verdict was returned in 2017 in the Matthew Forster case. He was sentenced to just 17 years for manslaughter. His father, Stephen Forster, received only 3 years in prison for aiding and abetting a crime and obstruction of justice, and is currently free.